Good morning, friends. It is just me again today. I know. I feel like it's kind of like dun-dun-dun. But Elijah was supposed to join me for this conversation this week, but he has lost his voice. And if you can't tell, this isn't just a morning voice. Allie lost her voice a week ago, and it's slowly but surely making its way back to town. So I'm gonna roll with it. As I mentioned, I asked you guys to send in questions for me and Elijah to answer this week, and I promise, I'm gonna make him come back. I mean, he just lost his voice. It'd be a little rude if I was like, come here, we're filming a video. So we are not gonna do that to him today, even though he got up and he went to a job. So Elijah has his own tree service company. So he works full-time for Bethel Global Response, and then he works full-time for his own tree service. But since it's his own tree service, he can kind of schedule his jobs in between. So he is on a tree service job because he has rescheduled this job a couple times already, and it's like, I literally just have to go. I have to show up and get the job done. So ay, Dios mío, it's just a lot. He's doing a lot with little. So praying for him today. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take on this mountain, and I'm gonna answer these questions to the best of my ability today. Some of them I think will wait, and we'll do another Q&A with Elijah, because obviously that was the point of this in the first place. But today, it's a early Saturday morning. I'm sipping on some coffee. Just picture this like a one-sided coffee date. You've probably been on some of those before. I mean, they're not the greatest, but you know, they get the job done. You get to know the person really well. So just pull up a seat, get a comfy, yummy drink in your hands, and we're gonna chit chat about a few, I guess more so wife side of the topic of sex. So pull up a seat, we're gonna make it happen. First question, well, I feel like I should kind of lay the foundation a little bit. If you haven't heard us talk about this subject before we ever jumped on YouTube, Elijah and I created Instagram videos when we first got married. So we got back from our honeymoon and we started creating videos, and we would make these videos multiple times in a week, just talking about what was going on in our marriage, have people send us in questions, and eventually we landed on YouTube creating these longer videos, and it's kind of morphed into a lot of things since then. More of me, less of Elijah. If you're not familiar, we come from Christian backgrounds. Our faith and belief is based on that, and it's our life. I mean, we met in ministry school, and that was the precedence for our relationship. Stepping into our relationship came with Christian core values and beliefs. So I actually think the conversation of sex started ever before marriage. I mean, I don't think it should be this taboo topic that you in a relationship don't address. It's kind of like the elephant in the room. You need to set boundaries, which we talk about very well in Christian environments, or maybe not very well, but we talk about it a lot in Christian environments. And then we kind of push off this topic of sex and just are like, this is gonna be for the wedding night. And then there's a lot of pressure that the wedding night is this, you've reached the peak, the pivotal moment in your relationship, and you just better hope it is everything you asked and imagined. And we'll get more into that. Maybe with Elijah, but I think, in Christian environments, it's this topic that is kind of, I don't know if, I feel like it's gotten better, but it's kind of been something that's pushed under the rug. However, in my journey, I'm gonna kind of just share my side of the story, but in my journey, I grew up a Christian. I grew up in a Christian home, and I seriously loved the Lord. He was my everything since I really can remember. I didn't really go through a rebellious stage, and I always actually feel like I disqualified myself from even having a testimony, because I didn't have a season of my life where I rejected everything and went to partying and smoking pot. That wasn't ever my story. And so I actually just really always loved the Lord. And I remember at 14 years old, I remember praying to God that he would not awaken love until it's time. Like, that sounds like the cheesiest Christian girl thing you could ever pray. But I always had such a huge value for purity in my life. And I didn't really have any boyfriends or any relationships prior to Elijah. Nothing that was like serious. I talked with guys, went on dates with guys. So purity was a huge value of mine from the get-go. And honestly, I didn't even understand, I don't think, as a teenager, like the deep desire to like make out with somebody or kiss somebody. I didn't do that. I had kissed a couple boys. And when we started dating, I started to have these desires like come up in me, and these things come up in me, and I was like, oh wow, these are the desires that I've been protecting this whole time. And as I stepped into relationship with Elijah, it for the first time became something in my life that I realized I need to steward this thing. I now need to take the reins. I mean, obviously you're not doing it on your own, but I need to take this and really create a plan for how I'm going to protect this thing that I really feel like the Lord has protected and has helped me in throughout my whole entire life. So that led to a lot of conversations, which we'll do a boundaries conversation, but it led to a conversation about how we are as a dating couple going to protect and steward these boundaries. And interestingly enough, I never realized how much gray space there is between kissing and having intercourse. Like, there is a world of possibility and creativity that you could discover out there. And if you don't talk about those things, it just leaves this like unknown, maybe we can go there, maybe we can't go there. And within a Christian environment, there's a lot of, naturally, I think there's a lot of shame. That's not how it's supposed to be, but there's a lot of shame around having a sex drive and having something that you feel like, can I share? Can I talk about this with people? Who can I talk about this with? Is this taboo? Is this going to be accepted if I tell somebody that I have this desire inside of me? And so being around people that can and will talk about that with you was number one, huge. But today, I just feel like I needed to lay that bit of that foundation before we jumped into some of these questions that I received, because I figured I'm just going to answer some of these questions on my behalf and that were specific towards this topic that I received on Instagram. So you can also follow me on Instagram, because I'm sure we'll do more of these Q&As where you can ask us anything. I am going to answer some of these questions. So I gave you some of that pre-story because somebody asked, and that's probably knows our story a bit. They asked, were you concerned about no previous experience before getting married? And I'll be 1000% honest with you. We've shared this before, but I came into the relationship never sleeping with somebody where Elijah had. And so naturally, I think the fear as a woman could be, or even as a man, if it was flipped roles, would be, am I going to be able to meet the expectation or experience that he's already had? And I would be lying if I said that never crossed my mind. Like, definitely I had those thoughts. And I think in Christian environments specifically, you really are, I feel like the sex conversation was so much about how you as a couple protect this moment and steward this moment in your relationship, and don't talk about maybe the pre-existing experiences that you both have had in this area. And for us, that was our unique story, is I had not slept with anybody, however Elijah had. And so stepping into marriage, that totally crossed my mind. And I don't know if I was so like nervous about that because it was a conversation that we had, because we had to have that conversation. Elijah was very open with me from the get-go, but I would also say he didn't ever overshare. Like, he always made sure that it was a conversation that I felt comfortable and I wanted to have. And so he only answered the questions that I asked him. And he said that, Allie, I'll answer anything that you ask me. But he didn't go into great detail because honestly, I don't think it's what my heart needed at the time. But there's also something so beautiful about being able to step into a relationship with somebody that you've had polar opposite experiences and go, slates are wiped clean, and we're going to come together and we're going to lay a foundation for our sex life that's going to look far different than maybe we've had before. And Elijah looked at me and he told me from the get-go, your purity is a gift to me. It's something that I don't even deserve. And that made me feel valued, first of all, but it also made me feel heard in the sense that he's telling me this is a gift, and I realize that no matter what your history is, we get to discover this together. And Elijah would tell me that often, that Allie, that's what's so beautiful about this experience, is that we get to learn together. We get to learn together, and it's probably not going to be great the first time. And that really set a precedence for our relationship of, oh, that's what I'm walking into. I'm walking into a situation where, one, it's valued. Two, we're acknowledging the elephant in the room. We're acknowledging the fact that that has happened in your life. And three, our core value and what we're grabbing onto is that this is an area of our life that we get to discover together. And it's okay if it's not okay the first time. Like, it's okay if it's not fantastic the first time. Let's jump to the second question. Someone asked, what is your best advice for a couple that is wanting to steward greater intimacy in their marriage? Okay, first of all, I feel like I just need to address the fact that we've only been married for 1 year. So most of my advice is that's where I'm coming from. I don't have like ample years of experience. But advice for somebody that is wanting to steward greater intimacy in their marriage. Well, first of all, sex is just a piece of that. It's one of the most, it is the most intimate experience you could have with somebody. It is so sacred. And I mean, it's so evident that it bonds you together, that God created it to be the most intimate form of connection with somebody. It's incredible. It produces life. It produces connection. It produces intimacy between two people. It's just profound. But that's not where intimacy starts. And I feel like it's different for men and women, but specifically for women, I don't actually find my greatest feeling of intimacy physically. I feel the most connected with Elijah when emotionally I feel connected with Elijah. And then I can physically feel connected with Elijah, where often it's opposite for him. He physically wants to feel connected so that he can emotionally feel connected. And I'm like, why did God create us like that? Like, why did God create us like that? It makes things, it can be so complicated. Like, I don't want to connect with you physically, but you are trying to connect with me emotionally, so you want to connect with me physically. Anyway, I would say, first and foremost, intimacy starts outside of the bedroom. Like, I feel like our greatest tool has been making sure that we're connected emotionally. We're connected in all areas of our life. If anything feels like it's kind of been pushed under the rug and we haven't wanted to talk about it, we bring it up, because that actually has built greater connection. If we've hurt one another in the slightest of ways in that week or in that day or whatever there is, we talk about it so that we can connect emotionally and physically. Secondly, I would say even in the bedroom, the greatest tool has been communication. It's been communicating to the other person simply what you do and what you don't like. And sometimes it's not sexy, sometimes it's not glamorous, sometimes it's like, whoa, slow down, stop, I don't like that, wait, no, please, wait, stop, more of this, less of that. Like, and it's learning each other. And that is I feel like the beauty and the awkwardness of your first couple months of marriage, still is just communicating, because also things are ever shifting. And as a woman, I don't know if you know this, but we have 4 stages to a cycle. At 4 different stages of our cycle, there's 4 different things that feel good and don't feel good, and needs that we have and needs that we don't have, and it's ever shifting. And I'm sorry for you men, because that's just a lot to keep track of, but that's the reality, and also keeps it kind of fun. So, I would say though, communication has been the greatest key. And then also, I want to say thirdly, when you feel like you have been so disconnected, I think actually the Lord, as a married couple, has given us a weapon. And that sounds quite dramatic and extreme, but he's given us a weapon with intimacy, with being able to have sex, because it's actually something the enemy wants to keep you from having. But as a married couple, it actually brings you together, and it is a form of worship and warfare. Like, it's a form of, I get to connect with you. This is something God created, and now I'm actually connected with you. And so in times when emotionally maybe we don't feel connected, or just outside of the bedroom we don't feel connected, it's actually a place to go and get connected again. Let's jump to the next question. Somebody asked, as a wife, how do you make sure Elijah feels loved and cared for? Man, I'd also be lying if I said that hasn't been an insecurity. Like, am I doing a good enough job? Is Elijah cared for? I just want to do a good job. Like, that's something that I feel like often comes to my mind. Am I doing a good job? Am I doing a good enough job? I just want to do a good job. I just want to love you well. I just want to be the best. And you guys, we're just going to fail sometimes as wives, and that's okay. But I think that I've had to learn that in this first year of marriages. There's going to be times that I'm not my best, because honestly, sometimes marriage just brings out the worst in me. And that's okay. This person is my closest person. They're going to see all the good, all the bad, all the ugly of me. So, and love me through it all. That's the beauty. But I feel like there's probably a jillion ways I could go here. But one way is actually, it sounds so simple, but it's curating a space that is safe. It's creating a refuge for Elijah to come home to. It's creating an environment that feels like home. When he's gone out in the world all day and worked so hard, and physically even been working so hard, and whatever, sometimes it can feel like you step outside the door and it's like, blah, I'm taking on the world today. But I want to create a space where when he comes home, it's peace, that he feels like he can just take off his shoes and be at rest, at home. That looks like creating an environment that he feels cared for. So physically, emotionally, asking him, how was your day? How are you doing? What do you need? We ask each other that question a lot. What do you need? And then creating meals for Elijah. Like, that feels so simple, but that's one of the greatest ways I've noticed Elijah feels cared for, is when I give him something, when I do something to serve him. So literally it looks like making a home-cooked meal. But I think more than those physical needs, it's emotional needs too. It's making sure that he feels like he's not on guard, that when he comes home, I'm not going to blow up or nag him or so many things. Even this week, he had to communicate to me, hey, Allie, when I come home, I don't want to feel stressed out, like there's a zillion things that we have to do. Can we have a conversation about those needs and not it be like, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that, but sit down and be like, hey, these are things that need to get done. Can we create a timeline? Can we create a plan for getting these things done? But also, I guess more so on like an intimacy side is, I don't know if this is hard for everyone, but it's being the one to initiate intimacy. And in our relationship, and I feel like I've heard a lot of married couples say this, just as the woman, I don't know if it's that there's less of a drive, or if there's less of a like natural desire. Maybe it's even just me, because I feel like some girls are not like this, but I feel like it's harder for me to be the one to initiate. So not that it's harder, it's just I don't. And so it's being actually really mindful of that and going, oh, I want to make sure Elijah feels loved and cared for. I'm going to be the one to initiate. And Elijah really has communicated that that really does make him feel loved and cared for. So yeah, you guys. So thanks for tuning in. I hope we can have more of these kind of conversations later. I know it's kind of like vulnerable and all the things, but honestly, Elijah and I talk about this stuff quite openly, and really want to make sure that honestly that this is a conversation that all couples can talk about open and honestly. So love having these conversations with you guys. I hope we can have another one really soon. When Elijah's feeling better and his voice is back and he's rested up and he's 100%, we are pulling him on the screen because he is going to have a sit down talk with both of us. And we're going to talk more about this together as a couple. So obviously, I would love to hear in the comments below, just if you have any more questions around this topic, or if there's other topics or specific things that you would love for me or Elijah and I to talk about together, whether that's boundaries or how we navigate family or arguments or our favorite things to do together, whatever your topics are that you would love to hear us talk about, please put them in the comments below. We'd love to hear about them. And give this a thumbs up if this was a helpful YouTube video for you to watch. So, loved having this talk with you guys today. Enjoy your Saturday, or actually probably week, because this is Saturday for me and this will be landing on my YouTube channel this week. So, cheers.